The World Triathlon Championship Series Montreal is incoming, and you can watch all the action on triathlonlive.tv on Saturday 24th of June from 11:30am local time, when the women get the fourth stop of the 2023 circuit underway. Don't forget to make your fantasy league picks on obstri.com, that's obstri.com, where you can pit your prediction skills against fellow tri buffs like this week's guests Tommy Zaferes and Stanford. And the overall series winner after the Pontevedra Championship finals will win a bumper bag of signed swag and merch. Today on the World Triathlon Podcast, we look ahead to the fourth series race of 2023, WTCS Montreal, in the company of two people who know the course and the athletes like the backs of their hands: former world champion and our Team GB coach, Stanford, and former Team USA athlete turned photographer and USA Talent ID honcho, Tommy Zaferes. Welcome to you both. How's it going?
Yeah, good, thank you. Thank you very much for having me along. Been a while since I've come and chatted with you, Doug, so yeah, looking forward to it.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Doug. I love being on the podcast with you, chatting with old friends, people I don't get to see too often anymore. So nice to catch up with you, Non.
Likewise, Tommy.
A big week for Non. Congratulations on the MBE. This is that was big news.
Yeah, it was a very lovely but very unexpected surprise when I got the letter probably about 5 or 6 weeks ago now. So had to keep it very hush-hush until this weekend just gone. But yeah, a real privilege, and really looking forward to going down to the Palace and getting that award.
Since I can never get one, I always make a list of everyone who has one that I'm friends with, and so then I'm get to add one more thing to my list. And
you have to send him a photocopy of the actual letter and everything as well, so he can put that on his wall with the other ones. Isn't that right, Tom?
It's going on the fridge, and Kimball, next to his artwork, his pasta art.
That's a great honor. Thank you very much.
Since nobody gets like interesting posts these days, that must have been like quite the thing when that plopped through the letterbox.
Yeah, well, it actually arrived at the office here, and the manager of the building sort of sent me this email like, "Non, you really need to come see me before you leave." And I was like, "Oh gosh, what have I done wrong? I've lost my keys or something like that." And anyway, I went upstairs and he's like, "I'm really sorry that I'm the first person to know," and handed me this letter. And you could sort of see through the window of the envelope the first line of the letter. So yeah, Martin, the manager of the Brownlee Centre, was the first to know. But he kept the secret well hidden for a few weeks. But yeah, it was a pretty cool letter to get, and I'll be keeping.
That feels a bit loose, doesn't it? Having all the crucial information visible through the little window of the letter. Is that?
Yeah. We'll let the I don't know who sent the letter, really. We'll let the Palace know.
Give me your feedback.
He was over candlelight doing one of these.
When do you get it? Is it you still have to go down there, get the formal thing, head to the Palace, do you?
Yeah, so don't know yet. I'm supposed to be getting a letter in the next few weeks that will give me a date, and all the crucial details, what I'm allowed to wear, what I'm allowed to say, what I'm allowed to do.
You only get what? Is there? Do they say, well, you've only got 30 seconds or you've only got so many seconds? A very limited little time to try and get in your question about, I don't know, the Norwegian method, who should anchor the GB relay team? I don't know.
I think King Charles will have all the answers to those questions. I'm sure he's a big triathlon fan.
Do you already have your outfit picked out?
Oh no, I mean it depends on when it's going to be. So what time of the year? Being as the UK is very seasonal, it'll have to be based on whether it's autumn or spring or what have you.
Very true. I was going to say, because Aaron's into bets, so you could make a bet with him that he gets to pick out what you wear and then see.
That is 100% not
the whole world watch it. Okay.
That would be a disaster.
Well, definitely. And that's why the whole world would be watching and waiting. It would be the biggest news in triathlon.
Outside of my wedding dress, it's probably the most important outfit I'm ever going to wear. So
I feel like, is Aaron the one that we need to watch out for? He might be the one throwing a couple of kind of curveballs down there, mightn't he?
Highly likely, yeah. Well, he's an Aussie as well, so he doesn't know the right etiquette, does he? Have to bring him up to speed with the good British etiquette.
Did you watch the game yesterday, the test? Are you cricket?
I'm not a fan, but I'm continuously updated about the Ashes. And when Australia finally got their 4 runs that they needed, I've honestly never seen my husband more animated in my life. He was jumping around, screaming, more emotional than I've ever seen him. So that was a turning point in our marriage, I think.
Wow, it was quite the thing. I'm sure you were glued as well, Tommy, right?
Absolutely.
I could see you looking up in the distance.
Aaron doesn't post about anything on social media except like drama in the triathlon space, like if there's doping going on or like something, and then anything about cricket. Like,
His two passions in life.
and it's funny because he posts these memes and I'm like, surely these are hilarious, but I don't understand the sport, so I don't understand anything that's being said. So, oh well.
I think he forgets cricket is very niche to the UK and Australia, really. I mean, obviously India, Pakistan, and South Africa.
The billions of people in India.
Yeah, but the rest of Europe and America have no clue.
Yeah, cricket memes just going over people's heads right around the world. But yeah, well, yes, it's great to have you both on to go into the WTCS Montreal coming up this weekend. Tommy, you're heading there shortly, presumably. Are you just getting everything together?
Yeah, so we just arrived back Monday night. Well, it was like 1 a.m. on Tuesday from Huatulco, and then had to unpack and then repack, and then we're headed to Montreal today. So it was basically a 1-day turnaround. Katie's coming back a day earlier because she's not doing the team relay. She's still not even sure she's going to get a start in the actual race. And I'll be flying back Monday. So Katie will come back a day early. She'll drive to the beach. I'll fly back the next day. And then I have the option to ride my bike to the beach, which is 300K, or drive. And so I've already got all my stuff packed and ready to go as if I'm going to ride, and I have the route mapped out, but we'll see after the Montreal weekend whether or not I'm up for a 300K barge.
Yes, I think we can all get behind that, can't we? Jeepers, that would be well worth following. You're going to presumably document that every step of the way. Well, I think it's going to happen now, Tom. You've mentioned it. It's out there. It has to.
Backpack full of Reese's, and then I don't have to stop anywhere. Just and it's going to be super hot, so I can just do one of those like camel packs and just drink the melted Reese's through the straw.
So Katie, on the waiting list for Montreal will be going anyway. Like, I suppose that's something that she's had to be dealing with for pretty much the first time, is it, coming out the back of motherhood and so on. Tricky place. Is that anything you had to deal with as well, Non? Was there periods where you were struggling to kind of hit those start lines, having been out off the circuit for a while?
I think I was quite lucky that I got either subbed in or wildcarded into my first race. I missed the whole of the 2014 season with injury, and then my first race back, I think I got a start, whether that was through a wildcard or a sub, and I think finished 7th, and then from there, that was Yokohama in 2015, and then from there I think I managed to get my start. So it was a bit more straightforward for me, but it's really tricky at the minute. With, I think part of the problem is the strength of the American women, right? And the number of American women that are in the top 20 or 30, making it very difficult for Katie and obviously for Gwen as well to sort of step back into that World Series space. But it's really interesting to watch unfold, and I'm sure it'll be nice when they finally sort of establish themselves back in that top echelon of Americans, but obviously then that means of the world as well.
World Triathlon does have the new maternity policy. It just kicked in after like Gwen and Katie. So now in the future, anybody who gets pregnant, that freezes their ranking from where it was. So when they do come back, their points are already where they were, so they can get starts no matter, if they're from a high power country or a country that only has a couple athletes racing, they should be able to still get starts. So that's a really cool thing that World Triathlon is doing. It's just a bummer that Katie and Gwen kind of missed out on that. But for the future, great.
Yeah. But I get there's got to be something to be said for being able to ease your way back into it as well, isn't there? You don't want to necessarily have your first race back. I guess you pick and choose and ease in through other races anyway. But is it something she's finding quite stressful, Tommy? Like that whole, just the uncertainty of a race that you're preparing for and not necessarily going to start, it can't be great.
Yeah, no, she's a planner, and it's really nice to be able to, set out blocks of time, chunks of time to be able to put in a solid block of training. But that's been impossible because she's had to go to these Continental Cup races, and like she's had 3 races on the schedule because she doesn't know which one she's going to get into. And then as an example, like she bought her flight to Montreal, which we're leaving today, which is Wednesday. She bought it on Monday. Like we didn't even know what the plan was until a couple days before. So there's like, you have an idea of like different options, but there's a point where you need to pull the trigger and like make a decision. So same thing was happening like before Yokohama, where she had the choice to fly all the way to Japan, spend a week there and hope to get on the start list. But she decided that it was a lot of money and it's not great for training there. So like, we'll skip that one, but then we'll invest in going to Italy and hope she gets on the start list. So it actually worked out well, perfectly, because you can't predict the future. So when you look back, she wouldn't have gotten on Yokohama. So it's good that she didn't go there. And then she did get on Cagliari. So it all worked out in her favor to that point. But yeah, still going to some Conti Cups to get her ranking up, some World Cups to get her ranking up, and then trying to get on every series start that she can. So yeah, a bit stressful.
Yeah. And how are how's the Brit squad looking? Have you been, which of those that are heading to Montreal have you been working with? Presumably Georgia and Sophie, or?
So Georgia is based here in the centre with us in Leeds, but Sophie is down in Loughborough, and Beth is in Leeds, but she trains with the Brownlee squad. So I don't necessarily see her very often unless she comes in for physio. So yeah, I mean, Georgia's going really well. I mean, you can just look at her last race in Cagliari, and that obviously shows that she's coming into form. She had a tough start to the year, but she's turning that around now, and hopefully sort of coming into shape at the right time. The main target for Georgia this year is the test event. She only needs the podium there, and that's her Olympic slot sort of guaranteed. So everything is sort of focused at that, and all these races are just about building up and preparing her for that race in Paris. So yeah, fingers crossed it goes to plan this weekend. But as we all know, triathlon isn't super predictable, so we'll have to wait and find out.
And the Montreal course is one that she obviously knows and loves quite well. Had a good battle there with Katie actually in 2019, which is the last time it was a sprint distance. Just a little bit about the course, I guess. It's sort of one of the more forgiving swims on the course, isn't it? On the circuit, rather, like the way that it's kind of gentle turns. It doesn't look like there's any that first buoy, for example, is probably not going to be quite as intense as they sometimes are.
Yeah, the way the course is played out is that the pontoon is in one spot, and then the swim exit is not at the pontoon. It's at a different place. So that allows the course to make the first buoy much further away than you'd normally have. So there's not as much chaos. The field is able to spread out a bit more before you get to that first buoy. Non might be able to speak to it a bit more, but I mean, some people in the mid pack are still going to experience that. But yeah, it is a little bit more gradual turns around the buoy, and then heading towards the swim exit, just less sharp of, like they're not 90-degree turns around the buoys. They're more like 45-degree angles, which helps the bunching up of athletes and swimming over the top of each other.
Looking at the start list, most of the main players are going to be there in the women's race. So I think it's going to be a really tough race and a very well fought race. And I think with some of the strong swim bikers that we've got, we could see a small front pack forming pretty quickly if you've got someone there to drive the swim on early doors.
How's Katie's form, confidence, whatever? Were she to make that start list of kind of being on the feet of a Bragmeier, Vittoria Lopez, Georgia, and so on? That's obviously the target, right? But would she be there? Do you think, Tom?
See, it's really hard to say, just because I kind of mentioned before that she's just having to race a lot, and normally she doesn't. She just can put in huge blocks of training. So swimming is one of those beasts where if you don't do it for a little bit, or if you're kind of off, or if you're not like dialed in on your training, it is hard to get to that top end unless you like naturally are always there. So Katie has to be very fit in terms of like consistent training to be there all the time. And at this stage, like she's been racing a bunch, so it'd be kind of a hit or miss thing. But I will say she's biking extremely well. So if she can get off like in touching distance, then I would say she has a chance at making that front group. But yeah, the get out speed thing is a really tough thing to kind of predict or guess. It's really dependent on your pontoon start position, who you're near, if you get kind of closed in on, or the two groups like spread out and you get some free space, or where you approach the buoy, if you're on the left side, right side. Like there's all kinds of factors that don't have anything to do with fitness as well that can determine where you come out of the water. So if she were to get on the start list, I would say she has a 50-50 chance to either does or doesn't.
And that's a sort of by virtue of her hard work, right? So you have someone like a Victoria Lopez or Brad Meyer who are presumably like the naturally gifted swimmers who have to put in a little bit less effort, whereas for Katie, it's hardcore training to get to that point. And where would you put Sophie in that realm, Non, as far as, you know, she's obviously a bullet in the water as well. Yeah, is it something that she's had to like keep right on top of to keep there, or is she naturally one of the faster?
I think, Sophie is one of our naturally very fast swimmers. I think for a long time, she probably had the fastest 50-meter swim time out of the men and the women on the British program. I'm not sure if that's still the case, but there definitely was a point where 50 was very impressive. So she's got very natural get out speed, but I know she's worked really hard on sort of her threshold development over the years. And but yeah, no, she's a natural swimmer, and I'd be very surprised if she's sort of not in the front group when they get out of the swim.
Top speed over 50 of the men and the women. That's quite something.
She's rapid.
And then how would you imagine, like, say Taylor Knibb's it's gonna be a pretty large pack coming out of the water together, basically. So you would imagine she'd want to go and try and break that up as quickly as possible, right, Tommy?
Absolutely. And I was looking at the start list because Nib didn't race in Abu Dhabi and she didn't race in Italy. So she only has one race. So her championship series ranking is not the best. I think she's like 15 to 20th range. So that means she's going to be probably somewhere in the middle of the pontoon, unless for some reason, like the buoys, the way they're lined up, like everyone just goes to one side, and then like the Olympics, Taylor chooses to go all the way to the other, because she said that she hates being near people or people touching her. So if she happens to get a good start, she's going to be one of the top, 3 or 4 out of the water. But if she gets hit or touched or like squished a little bit, then she kind of like shuts down and like lets people go, and then has to like catch it up. So it's really going to be dependent on the swim and where she comes out. But for sure, she's just going to annihilate the bike. Like that is her game plan every single time. Everyone knows that. So she's just going to get out there, and then she doesn't really care like who's on her wheel. If you're going to be there, then you're going to have to ride as hard as you can to stay there. Once the break's established and the group's established, then she'll kind of evaluate who's there. And then she'll do her thing where she goes to the back, waits for the right time, and then puts in a massive attack and tries to drop some people. So I guarantee we're going to see that. I haven't talked to her or anything, but that's the MO. So we'll see what happens.
Has there been? Have you got any intel or thoughts on the new contract she's got with the cycling team as well? Like how's that going to be playing out, do you imagine, in relation to her triathlon career?
So that was really cool to hear about, actually, because basically, it's really good for her financially, and then of course for a future career, and like just the publicity of our sport, triathlon in general, like crossing over with cycling. But she has access now with Trek Segafredo with their whole team, meaning like the team of coaches, physios, and all that stuff. And so she's going to be working very closely with a bike skills coach, and making sure that, because she doesn't want to race a road race until she is 100% ready to be comfortable and confident that she's not going to crash and not crash anybody else out. So she's working with a Trek Segafredo, bike handling skills coach. And that's been one of her main factors in World Triathlon racing that has kind of let her down, where she's super strong on the flat, super strong TTing. But when it comes to corners, she's always leaving big gaps. She doesn't trust other riders. She loses quite a bit of time, and she just loses energy there. So if she's able to dial down those skills, then it's going to be a pretty intense, next year and a half leading into the Olympics.
Just what everybody wants, Taylor Knibb getting better on a bike.
Did you have any sort of, I don't know, either eureka moments or things that you were always trying to dial in to bring into your biking section of the three disciplines? How did that figure in your sort of strengths and weaknesses, or things that you were trying to pick up?
So for me, I'm not a powerful athlete. I'm a bit of a diesel engine. So when you're coming into a dead turn and there's like huge spikes in power, for me, that was really difficult and sort of my weak area. So I worked really hard in always positioning myself in the right place, so that elastic band effect that obviously happens when you come out of a corner, I was as far forward as possible. So that when I inevitably lose a little bit of time, because I can't put the same power down as some of the other girls, I wasn't drifting off the back of the pack. I was just drifting a bit further down. So I had to think really smart about how I was racing and always trying to position myself in the right place. And fortunately, I was quite technically sound, and sort of really enjoy technical courses and cornering and sort of carrying speed through technical sections. So fortunately, I enjoyed that, so I could sort of overcome that deficit in power.
Sort of the polar opposite of Taylor Knibb, then.
Yeah.
There's talk about her sort of being able to schedule dependent, potentially do both sports at the Olympics. Is that does that sound realistic, do you think?
I haven't looked at the schedule, but if it's schedulely possible, I can imagine her doing it. But if she was only doing like the individual time trial for cycling, then I think absolutely that's doable. But yeah, just dependent on schedule.
Is that in a way like the flip of what you're doing, Tommy? You're looking at, good swimmers, good runners, and trying to lure them over to the triathlon world, right? That's kind of part of your role at USAT. And they've obviously heard about Taylor's abilities and kind of done the opposite.
Yeah, I also check cycling as well, but it's just a lot more rare that you find a good cyclist who also can swim or run. So yeah, I'll still continue to check like cyclocross results, individual time trial results, national champs, road racing. Like I check everything, but yeah, yet to find somebody who has stats that kind of measure up in the cycling world. So it's much easier if you find somebody who's talented already in two sports. Most likely they'll be able to do a third, especially if they just have that aerobic engine. But then, yeah, evaluating the bike handling skills and how quickly they can pick up on things and how comfortable they feel right away out of the bike, that's the big factor. So finding people who are good at two sports plus have the natural ability on the bike that's the golden egg.
It's not something that forms part of your job, Non. You're 100% in the coaching realm, or do you inevitably in that kind of world come across athletes or hear about athletes or have them sort of do people tip you off and say you should have a look at this person or bring them in?
I mean, if somebody tipped me off, I'd probably point the talent ID officer or whatever their role title is in British triathlon. I'm not 100% sure, in the right direction. But no, that's not my job. I work with so the way that Leeds Triathlon Centre works is we work in partnership with the universities here, and I work with sort of our potential athletes coming through that we feel have the potential to move on to world-class program in the next few years. So sort of really trying to develop our 18 to 25-year-olds into the world-class pathway athletes, and also working alongside the world-class athletes that we have here already. But yeah, sort of really focusing on that group of athletes that are coming through and hopefully getting them ready to move up to sort of World Cup, World Series level.
Out of 10, how much do you prefer being on the side of the pool than in the pool for those sessions then?
So it depends. I really enjoy coaching a hard swim, and I hate swimming a hard swim, but I do not enjoy coaching like long aerobic swings because there's not really much you can do. And I'd much rather be in the water floating around than sat on poolside. So it depends on the session.
I imagine it's kind of the same for you, isn't it, Tom? You would much rather be in there. No?
I couldn't tell if you were being sarcastic. No,
you always look like you're kind of like a flipping. I always think of you as some sort of Labrador chasing a ball, like just desperate to get in there and have a crack.
Yeah, well, I spent so many years swimming that, yeah, I don't even get in the pool anymore. Yeah, after Tokyo, there was no reason for me to swim anymore. So I was like, Katie already has training partners in the pool, and so I don't need to get in there. The only time I swim now is for the swim course familiarization photo gallery. So I'll get in there with my GoPro and swim one lap of the course and then take a nap.
It would be an interesting test if Katie's there and in either a chase pack or in that pack with Taylor, and a good test of where she is in relation to Taylor and her remarkable levers and the power that she can push, as it will be heading onto the run. There's some interesting names out there kind of doing some good times at the moment, aren't there? Like Jeanne Lahair was pushing some good pace with Cassandra Bogran in Cagliari and showing what she can do. Beth Potter will obviously be someone that everyone will have their eye on as having a wicked kick over the closing stages as well. How do you see it? Non, for example, who would you have your eyes on out there?
I always think with a sprint distance, the sort of window opens a bit wider and you get more people that can sort of factor. But I think, like you say, obviously the obvious athletes, Potter, Jeanne is in good shape right now. You can never discount Spivey, Taylor Brown. Kate Woff had a great result in Yokohama, and that's always sort of more of comes down to a solid run. So I think those sort of obvious names. But then Rosa Maria Tapia Vidal, she's obviously a force to be reckoned with right now and running super well. So it'll be interesting to see how she stacks up again against these girls, especially over the shorter distance.
Tom, anything that you saw in Huatulco that you think may or may not hit the highs in?
Well, Huatulco was quite the different race. I have to say it was just one giant massive pack pedaling around at about 100 watts in like the hottest temperatures you've ever felt in your whole entire life. So I think the conditions really play a factor, and I don't think we'll see as slow of a race at a championship series race as in Huatulco. So I don't think we'll see any of the names that we saw there. And Jeanne Lahair, like, she's been killing it, but she's also been racing like every single weekend. She raced in Madrid, and then she raced the French Grand Prix in Bordeaux, and then she's racing in Montreal. So I'm wondering if that's sustainable and if she's able to, come back with the fire that she's already had, because she's definitely one to watch. I would be interested though, sprint distance wise, after all that racing and like the different names now that are on the start list, because we're going to have Georgia Taylor Brown, Sophie Coldwell, and Taylor Knibb and Taylor Spivey, 4 athletes that are super strong on the front. And so if Jean's not there, then that group is gone. And so then I don't see her in sprint distance being able to run up through that. And this is the first time that we've had like all of those athletes racing in the same race. And already there's been a breakaway at every single race without all of them together. So chances are high that there's going to be another small group off the front. And so I would say that, like, in my fantasy picks that I have, I got my top 5 are Georgia Taylor Brown, Sophie Coldwell, Taylor Knibb, Taylor Spivey, and Beth Potter. So that's who I foresee.
Yeah. obstri.com for the fantasy. Have you delved into that?
Being biased, would like to see a Brit win again, because then that means a British woman has won every World Series race this year. So long may that continue.
It needs to be Kate Woff. It needs to be Kate Woff so that it can be a different British woman at every single race. That would make my year, I think.
That's true. I'm more than happy for Kate Woff to take the title in Montreal. But I think, it'd be really interesting to see when Nicole van der Kay actually, how she goes as well, because she's been having a great start to the season over in the Southern Hemisphere, and it'll be great to see how she lines up, and she's always pretty strong over sprint distance. So I think to throw a different name out there, I'm going to say Nicole.
Yeah, that win for Beth in Abu Dhabi was quite something, and equally impressive, I guess, the second for Sophie Coldwell. Quite interesting that she was, not even really planning to race. It was just bolted on on the way back from Australia from her training block, and how really that a result in a race that she wasn't even planning to race has kicked her on into the best start of the season of her entire career and put her in really great position. And then she chose to sit out Cagliari, right? That kind of picking and choosing of what races to do is quite an interesting sort of side story at the moment.
Yeah, I think Sophie has found a great balance in her life and training, and she's, I think, worked really hard on finding what works for her with training, and really stuck to a gun. She's very, she knows what she wants to do and she sticks to it, and I really admire that in her. And I'm loving seeing her do so well. She's sort of been around the sport for so long and worked so hard, and yeah, it's great to see her right up there mixing at the top and regularly podiuming. And of course, I'm sure we'll see her factor again this weekend, because she is such an all-round athlete. She's a super swimmer, a super biker, and now she's a super runner as well. So, that full package is what you need to be in triathlon these days. Gone are the days where you can just be a super runner. You've got to be the full package if you want to be up there podiuming.
Yeah, we interviewed her for the Down the Blue Carpet series on Triathlon Live just before Abu Dhabi race, and yeah, I hadn't realised quite how far back her sort of triathlon goes. Was she like 6 or 7? I think if you cut her, she bleeds triathlon, right? It's incredible.
Yeah, she's definitely somebody that grew up being a triathlete. So a lot of my generation of athletes have come across from different sports, but Sophie is definitely of the generation where they've grown up being triathletes, and I think we're going to see more and more of that now, obviously, as the sport is far more established, and us old folks are on our way out.
I feel like when Katie won her title in 2019, Tommy, was there... I feel like she was just on every start line that came her way in the series, that is. Is it just she was that type of athlete that she just wanted to keep the racing consistency, build the training between them? Is that just my memory sort of deceiving me, and she actually was a bit more selective of the races? How did it play out?
Yeah, over the years as well, the rules have changed with how many races count. And then also it's dependent on if you have good races or bad races, or if you get sick or whatever. And it's all about the overall series and the buildup of points. So I think, yeah, if there are more races on tap and then fewer races that count towards the world title, then you can be a lot more selective with which races you choose to sit out, and which ones that you can afford to have like a few bad races at or whatnot. So and I think nowadays there's plenty of options for racing. Also, there's plenty of options for missing races as well that fit your schedule. So especially with the test event now thrown in the mix before the grand final, and a lot of athletes, their country's Olympic qualification are the test event. So sitting out championship series races in placement of getting a good training block so that you can qualify for the Olympics, I think is as equal as important as actually finishing in the overall. So we'll see what happens this year and what athletes choose to do. But as you saw, I know it's kind of off topic, but I was just looking at the start list, and there are 0 French men on the start list in Montreal. And like Alex isn't there and Hayden's not there, if I recall correctly. So like these guys, they've already got really good results. So it's not necessary for them to go. Like they can afford to just have a super block of training and then nail the important races. Not that Montreal's not important, but
yeah. And just to close out the sort of women's side of it, obviously still no Flora. She's very clear that Paris test event is her sort of plan for that first race back, probably. And like you said, on the French side, no Cassandra, no Emma Lombardi. Leonie Perriot is the only French athlete racing. Those guys, I guess, also with slightly different priorities. It'll be interesting to see whether they do or what they do for Hamburg and Sunderland ahead of Paris as well. And then, on the men's side, I guess in a similar way to Jean Leher, someone who's raced a lot but is in very good form, and you wouldn't necessarily discount the way he's been running, is David Castro, right? European champ and the winner in Huatulco.
Yeah, well, same thing as Jean Leher. Like David's been traveling all over the place and racing all these different races, and I'm going to be very interested to see how he pulls up in Montreal, because doing that much travel and that much racing and that hard of racing, and especially in Huatulco, that hot of a race, recovering from that and like getting proper training in is very difficult. And one of the things we've seen with David is that he's struggled a bit with the harder bike. He has been, dropped from packs in the past, and I think we've only seen him at a series race finish in the top 5 only once. So going from a World Cup like Huatulco, where it's really warm, pretty big pack, not a very strong, hard bike ride, like a little bit lower level of competition, like he's just blowing doors on people. He's killing everybody. Like comes down to a really fast run, and he's got that dialed. But the championship series is a whole nother level. Different conditions, as we talked about before, for the women, where the bike is going to be a lot faster, a lot harder. So seeing how, if he's able to stay with that front group, then for sure he's got a shot at the podium. I would not discount him, but he's just going to have to make that step up, to the harder bike ride and the little bit more energy that it's going to take to stay in the front group.
And obviously the Europeans was duathlon format as well, which I guess played massively to his strengths. Any particular athletes you've got your eye on to make waves in the men's race?
Well, like you said, it's a lot of the sort of big players aren't going to be there, with Alex, Hayden, and the French guys sitting it out. So for me, when I first looked at the start list, I was like, wow, it's actually quite open. I think it's really interesting to see Matt Hauser coming back onto the World Series start list, especially over sprint distance. He's always super strong. So I might even tip him for top of the podium. But I think you're going to see Vilaça up there, obviously. It'd be great to see Van Riel racing again. He's getting stronger every race at the minute, coming back from obviously a pretty significant injury. And Jelle Geens has had great form in Montreal. I think it was his first ever World Series win a few years back. So I'd like to see him up there and fighting for the podium as well.
That was one of the all-time great finishes, wasn't it? Haynes against Mario Mola as the heavens opened in 2019, and that they sort of dug in, especially actually kind of enhanced the whole thing, having Tyler tucked in there as well, and looking absolutely fresh as a daisy still with a kilometre to go, and just got edged out. As someone who was obviously quite close to Mario and Jelle, Tommy, having trained with him a lot, and that must have been one of your moments to savor from behind the lens, wasn't it?
Well, do we want to get into the whole story? Because what makes it even more memorable is the Reese's bet. So, do you want me to tell the story real quick?
Tell the bet. Tell us the bet. There's always some bet.
All right. So, back in 2019, right, they had a Continental Cup the morning of the Championship Series race. So, because I was working there, I wasn't working in the morning. So, I was like, oh, I'll just throw my name on the start list and I'll just race like before the Championship Series race. And then it turned out I was the same number as Jelle. We were number 15 on the start line. So I told him, I was like, all right, let's make a bet. Like whoever beats their number by more wins, and the loser has to buy the winner Reese's. And Jelle's like, Reese's? I've never heard of Reese's. I don't know what those are. I was like, oh my gosh, you have to have them. They're incredible. Whatever. So we had this bet. We raced in the morning. I ended up having a sprint finish and then finished second. And so then I was like, boom, got this in the bag. Like Jelle's never been on a podium or whatever. Like I got this Reese's thing. And then I'm watching the race, and Jelle's like running in the top 3, with okay to go. And I'm like, he could actually like win this. And like it came around the corner, and Mario like takes off, and I was like, all right, well, if he's second and I'm second, then like, no, we all get Reese's. Everyone gets Reese's. All good. But then he out sprinted Mario, the last 50 meters, and took his first ever win. And I couldn't have been more excited about losing a bet in my entire life. But we had like published it on social media, so like everyone knew about it. And now it's a thing, like people throw Reese's at me and stuff when I'm like working on race courses, like still 4 years later.
Jackpot. You're living the dream.
Yeah, so that was a most memorable experience. The other second one is that Katie and Jelle both won. And so on the podium, there's a picture of them like arm in arm, because it was pouring down rain, as you said, in the finish. So they had to move everything inside. So they did the women and the men together. And there's a picture of them like flexing next to each other. And they turned that into the volunteers t-shirt for the next year. So everybody who was volunteering or like wearing t-shirts had a picture of Katie and Jelle on the back, like doing the fist pump. And so then I asked for a few shirts. So we all got shirts for the JSP crew. And I still have it. I still wear it every once in a while.
Nice. A result for someone that you were just so delighted to see them come through, and, something that you weren't necessarily involved in, or even it might have been like against you, but one way you just kind of hold your hands up and go, yeah, that is exactly what you wanted to be the outcome.
I've actually really enjoyed seeing Jean Lahair do well this year. I used to be on a French team with Jeanne, and I know she has maybe struggled to find form in the last few years and has had a change of setup with her coach, and that's not necessarily been straightforward, sort of leaving her old setup. So yeah, really delighted to see her doing really well. I know she works really hard. So I'd say, yeah, seeing Jeanne take my European title from me was actually quite nice.
Yeah. Yeah, you have to try and get a few words with her after the race in Montreal, Tommy. She was saying about how, obviously not an easy decision switching nationality from Luxembourg from France to Luxembourg in the previous podcast, and then the fact that Cagliari was basically finishing in top 5, she would have qualified for the French team for the test event, but then. And I was like, well, could that? Do you feel any regret about making the change? Then, Paris, home Olympics, racing for France, you could have been like, one of the top 3 on the thing. And she said, well, she wouldn't have got those chances to race if she'd still been in the French setup, right? She probably wouldn't have been in Cagliari. So, yeah, that is, it's good. It's a good time for her. It's great to see like a change like that have such a positive impact, I guess.
I think it shows the importance of giving some people opportunities. I think federations can sometimes get caught up in making sure athletes are a certain standard before they're allowed to race at, World Series level. And sometimes you just need to expose people to it, and they might fail the first couple of times they get out there. But for me, certainly, the first few World Series I did, I was lapped out. But if I hadn't had that exposure, I wouldn't have been put on this sort of super quick learning trajectory. And I think for some people it doesn't work, but for other athletes it really works. And Jeanne is obviously an example of thriving off of being given extra opportunities through this sort of switch to Luxembourg.
Yeah, Tommy, when you're bringing new people into the setup, I guess, do you always try and presumably it can't be that straightforward, but you're getting in touch with these people, bringing them in for a test or whatever. Are you more often than not there for those first experiences that they have, or sometimes you're just kind of handing them over, feeding them to the lions, and then seeing what they come up with?
Typically, we're trying to follow a specific development path, and so I kind of relate it to like learning a language, where it is good sometimes to be fully immersive in if you just go to a country, but it's really hard and you're just lost for a while. So it's nice to like go through Spanish 1 or Spanish 2 before you actually get fully immersed. So the goal is to have them go through the steps of like Continental Cup racing and like work their way up, and then you give them the opportunity, as Nan said. And some people it works really well, some people it doesn't. So you give them a few opportunities to shine, and if they're not able to do that after a couple, then you kind of take a step back and like, all right, what's the development process that's going to work for you, and kind of figure it out that way. But no, we don't like feeding them to the lions directly. We'll make sure that, they have some sort of base and knowledge and understanding of what it's going to take, and working their way up a little bit. I don't want to say slowly, because it is kind of a fast track, and triathlon is a tough sport, and it takes a long time to qualify for the Olympics. It's a 2-year process. So it's not like you can eventually take 4 years in an Olympic cycle to qualify for Olympic trials and like running or swimming, and then just show up to one event, finished, and then qualify for the Olympics. It's a big, long points chase. So making sure that the athletes are kind of following that step-by-step process and working the points system.
I mean, it's not been that long, has it? Like 1.5 years, 2 years since you started? Are you starting to see the first fruits, like the first athletes that got you excited kind of coming through now? Are there any that are, the fruit of your work coming out?
Not quite yet. I've been there for almost 2 years now, actually. So it's basically been restructuring the entire program, figuring out different funding paths, because we don't have just funding. Like, we have to get donors to donate money to be able to start new programs and stuff like that. So doing that, kind of breaking things down and then building things back up. We've had new staff turnover and like getting approval for things. And so it is like a very political and bureaucratic process as well. It's not just like finding athletes and giving them opportunity. There's like a lot of structure involved. So basically the last 1.5 years has just been breaking down and building up structure. Now that we have the structure in place, I actually have a camp the first week of July where we'll have a group of athletes coming in And most likely, I'm not going to start seeing any fruits until after 2024, I would guess. So we'll see. But we have a lot of potential coming up and coming through. And now that we have the structure in place, we're going to try to see if that pans out. We do have one athlete. His name's Ko Cruz. He just raced his first World Cup in Huatulco, but unfortunately he ended up crashing. But he still picked his bike up. His trailer was going into his wheels. He stopped. He like bent it back and then finished the ride solo, and then still ran like as hard as he could. He finished like 50th or something. But just the mental capacity to crash, get up, be pretty banged up, fix your bike, and have to stop multiple times and then continue to go is a good sign, just mentally. So anyway, that's the one athlete that we have that's currently in the program that is racing at the quote World Cup level.
Strong. And as 2024 Paris kind of comes into view, Non, does your role change slightly? Does the way, over the next, well, it's almost exactly a year, isn't it? Like, does the whole approach start to change within British triathlon? And what is always meticulous preparation over there, isn't it?
Yes, I think we're sticklers with details, and I think sort of one of our aims is to always be the best prepared team on the start line. And the closer that we get to an Olympic Games, so I guess you start the Olympic cycle 4 years out, and the base is broad, and each year we get narrower and narrower, and the focus gets narrower and narrower on specific athletes. And that doesn't mean we can neglect the athletes that won't be going to the Olympics, but more and more effort and time is put into those athletes that will be going to the games. And yeah, of course, we're getting pretty close now, and we spend a lot of time sat around tables discussing what athletes training is going to look like, what their preparation is going to look like, what have we got in place ready. These conversations are probably happening at many levels above me as well, but sort of within the centre here, and the athletes that we potentially have going to the games, that's already happening. And I guess it just, you get more and more focused on those that are hopefully going. And we're very fortunate with British Triathlon that most of the athletes that we send are going to be in a position where they have the chance to deliver a medal. So medal delivery is what it's all about. And just trying to best support those athletes as we can to deliver the performances for themselves. Ultimately, we're here to serve and to help those athletes realize the fruits of their hard work and their dreams. So it'll be the first time that I've obviously been on this side for an Olympic cycle, and I won't be at the games myself. That they've already got this sort of senior management team set for that and senior staff team set for that. But just to be sort of part of that process and the build up will be really interesting, and hopefully really rewarding.
It'll be fascinating to see if Johnny is there for a fourth games as well. I imagine a race like Montreal will be a real sort of yardstick for him. Tommy, we didn't really hear much about your picks for the men's race in Montreal. That seems like a good moment.
See, this is why I love and hate fantasy all at the same time, because it's like you look at the start list and there's so many names that could win the race. You're like, and then so many people who have performed over the years, like that are just legends of the sport. And you're like, they're not even in my top 5, but why? It's like, just because like recent results, but like you can't count them out. So it's really frustrating because when I see names like Johnny, I'm like, I want to pick him because he's just got this, like all these results from the past years and years and years of racing that are so incredible. But then you look at the other names and you're like, all these new names now have been beating him at every race, like in the last couple of years. So it's like, making my team is really tough. But I feel like the game has changed just a bit. And there's not quite as much firepower at the front. There's not quite as much aggressiveness coming out of the water, getting on the bike and not looking back. And nobody caring what's happening behind, where like both the Brownlows when they're racing, they could give a crap what's happening behind them. They just went, and then that's when gaps opened up. And once they have that gap, it's never going back. But now you see the guys get out of the water and they're kind of looking at each other. They're like, they see somebody put their foot in their shoe, and so they stop and put their foot in their shoe all at the same time. So then the whole pack slows down, and you're like, oh no, that's like the moment you gotta go. Like, I know it's easier said than done, but like it's just different. Like you used to see just it lined out, strung out, just like going crazy at the front. And now it seems more like a little bit more cautious, and like people are getting into like a nice easy rotation at the beginning, and you're like, oh, they're working together well, but they're really just like kind of, I would say, faffing about, as not the British would say. You don't see that just like super aggressive head down, just like drooling everywhere, getting that front group away. So now that that's happening and there's no front group, and there's just a lot of fast runners that are young guys that are coming up that can stay in the group and that can sprint really fast. The last 800 meters, are game changers. So Vasco Vilaça, he's got a crazy good sprint. Hauser's got a crazy good sprint. Yellow's got a crazy good sprint. Tyler Mislachuk's got a crazy good sprint. Manuel Metsius has good sprint. So like all of these guys, if they're in there, you can't call it. It's just going to be who's got the mental fortitude that day and how it turned out. And like we also have guys like Jonas Schomburg, who he was, I believe, top 5 in Cagliari or top 6 or something like that. And he's crazy fast out of transition, and typically he goes out really fast and then like falls off a bit. But every single race, like he's getting a little bit further and a little bit further. And with the sprint distance race, it's only 5K, so maybe he can hold on this time. There's Blumenfeld is going to be back. Like I know that sprint distance is a bit harder for him, but he's an Olympic champion. Like he's the Ironman world champion, 70.3 world champion. Like so insanely talented. Like why would you not put him in your top 5? So that's why it's so hard. And then we got Martin Van Riel, who he's slowly coming back, but he's such a talented dude that I know after a month of extra training, could make the difference between being 13th to being top 5. So, there's all kinds of names on here. We have Roberto Sanchez Mantacone. We have Alberto Serrat-Sioane. And those guys have been on podiums in Bermuda, like fastest runs of the day. So I know I'm not helping anyone, but I'm just naming off some people that like this is what goes through my mind when I'm picking my fantasy teams. It's like, all right, if it's one group, these are all the people who could like win this race. And I don't foresee there being a breakaway in this with 750 swim. Everything's pretty compact. And there's not any powerhouses. I don't want to say powerhouses. Everybody's a powerhouse in the bike. It's the problem. So there's not a discrepancy of like one person that could make the biggest difference. So I don't know. Nan, what do you think? You saved me from my hell of this argument within myself.
I was going to say, I would agree with you that I think it's not that there isn't any powerhouses on the bike anymore. I think it's just that the standard of all the men globally has risen. So I think the Brownlee set this standard, and Gomez, of course, for what the biking was going to be, and everybody else has come up to it. And that's why we're just seeing these big packs now and sort of not the smaller breakaways that we became accustomed to seeing. But yeah, for me, if you want my picks for the top 5, I'm going to go Hauser, Vilaça, Geens, Mislachuk, and Van Riel.
I have similar, but different order. So I have Vasco winning just because I think that would be cool for him to be his first win. Yella second, Mislachuk third because a Canadian on the podium would be ideal as well in Montreal. Hauser for fourth, just because I want him to be there as well. And then Martin for fifth, just because I like Martin.
And that's kind of fearless. What you're basically saying is, and this is what Jamie Riddle was kind of alluding to a bit in his interview as well on here. He's obviously massively influenced by the Brownies, that style of racing we saw in Hamburg a year or two ago when he went out on the front. He could be out, one of the first out of the water. So it's a long run into transition. He just hammer that run, get straight on the gas, and put the cat amongst the pigeons. Is that what you're saying he should do, Tommy?
Yeah, but he needs other people to do that as well. Like if he does it by himself, which he's done in the past, it doesn't do anything. Like you need 3 or 4 guys that are doing that exact same thing, that are all in the same mindset of, all right, this guy in front, he's going to ride for like literally a minute and a half as hard as he can. And then when he pulls off, I'm going to ride as hard as I can for the next minute and a half. And then, do that a few times to get through that rotation to just make that gap. And then once it's established, then that's when you can start getting in your rotation and rhythm and being polite to each other.
Well, we look forward to the racing. It's this Saturday. It's on triathlonlive.tv. Tommy, you'll be working. Non, will you be watching? It's fairly antisocial hour, actually, isn't it? In the
Probably, yeah, it probably is. I'll be flying potentially over to Krakow for the European Games. It's my first as a coach, so I will watch if I can, of course, but I might be in travel.
Righto. Now we got Barclay Azard, we've got Connor Bentley and Hamish racing as well for GB there, right? So those two guys with a very good chance of doing something special.
Yeah, definitely. Well, obviously we had Hamish and Connor on the podium at World Under 23s last year, and Barclay's had some really solid results at World Series this year. He's such a strong runner. So yeah, it'd be really interesting. Looking at the men's and women's start lists, they're both fairly open. Yeah, it'll be great to sort of support the athletes and hopefully get some good results for GB.
Tommy, by the time we finish this, Kimball will have done his packing for everyone, and it'll be plain sailing to Montreal, right?
Yeah, as far as I know, he's all packed because that's Katie's realm. She does all of it. She is insane with how much she does. It's crazy.
Yeah, we hope she gets on that start. Non, enjoy Krakow. I hope it goes well. Was your first foray into the major games as a coach?
And your first crack.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to elaborate on that.
Oh, mate, I'm sure you've got something that you'd like to pass on to Erin through Non for when she gets home tonight. See him.
Make sure dinner's ready, Mr. Husband.
I was going to say, my athlete isn't as well trained as your athlete, I don't think.
He's got no planning done.
Well, I'm not going to say too much.
Too busy watching cricket. That's a job in itself.
Takes up a lot of time.
It is a commitment. Cricket is a commitment.
On Stanford MBE, congratulations on that as well. And yeah, thanks very much, guys. That was great.
Thank you so much, guys. Good luck, Team Zaferes.
Thank you. Thanks, Doug.